We already covered Electric Screaming Dawn, so let's see if Electric Screaming Meursault can live up to her hype. Electric Screaming Meursault is a 10th level E.G.O with a 22 base and a +4 roll. It does pierce damage and has an attack weight of 2 at the base. Before attack, gain 12 charge count. After attack, apply +8 charge count to one other ally with the least charge count. Number of affected allies grows by highest envy resonance -2, maximum 5. At +4 highest envy resonance, apply 1 envy damage up to self and all affected allies. At +6, apply another envy damage up to self and all affected allies. And lastly, on hit, inflict 1 rupture. This E.G.O is very similar to Dawn's Electric Screaming, wanting to do charge and envy resonance, but this time, instead of just doing damage, you buff your allies. The passive of this E.G.O, Overloading Cables. Combat start at +4 resin, gain 2 offense level up and 2 defense level up. If resin was an envy, apply the above effects to 2 adjacent units on the dashboard as well. That is pretty nice. Just buffing, making them stronger, making them more defensive. That's very good, and you do it to your allies too. That is a very solid passive, I gotta say. When you corrode, your roll will change to a 28 with a negative of 12. You'll be doing pierce damage still. You have an attack weight of 2. Now, before your attack, you'll gain attack weight equal to highest envy resonance, subtract 2, maximum of 3. So, that's the same before attack that Dawn has in her Electric Scream, if I'm not mistaken. And before attack, at 10 plus charge count, you apply the effects from on hit twice. Interesting. Before attack, if the unit has 10 plus charge count, spend a maximum of 20 charge to deal plus 3% damage per each charge. This will go to a maximum of 60. So, that is fairly good. And on hit, you inflict 1 paralysis and 3 rupture, which, if you have 10 charge or above, they'll become 2 paralysis and 6 rupture, which isn't actually half bad. Actually, I think it's really good because you're making your damage go pretty high, which both of these Electric Screaming E.G.Os tend to have done, and it's a good thing to do. More damage, the better, and dealing 2 paralysis is always nice with 6 rupture. Well, the rupture is just to sweeten the deal, I suppose. Well, this E.G.O will cost you a whopping 1 wrath and 4 envy to use, but that can be covered by Middle Meursault, as he has a wrath skill 3 and a envy skill 2 and defensive skill. And Middle Dawn could also fuel hers by herself, but I forgot to mention it, so my bad. But they do pair very well together. Speaking of that combo, since Meursault can give Dawn 8 charge after his attack, which is really good, and it's going to help her fuel her extra damage. And this E.G.O will cost you a little bit more in the sanity department than most tests. It'll cost you a whopping 25 instead of the regular 20. Now, I'm not sure why that is, but it's not that bad. And if you care what the resistance is, because you might not, you probably don't, but you might. So, you become Fatal to Sloth, Fatal to Gloom, and ineffective to Envy. Once again, it's time to rate the E.G.O. So, starting with drip, this E.G.O has a very good drip. It's pretty much Dawn's at the Awakening, but it has wires coming out of it. And I like the wires quite a bit. And the corrosion, oh my goodness, I like the corrosion. It makes him appear like the Electric Sheep, but the Electric Sheep got Meursault's hair, which is pretty goofy, and it got little tiny spindly legs, which is also pretty goofy. So, goofiness is very good. I like goofiness. So, give that a whopping 9. Pretty good, honestly. I like that E.G.O a lot. I like it a lot. And its strength is going to be very high because it buffs itself and allies, making it deal more damage, so strength damage, and has a pretty good roll, especially when it's on corrosion. And a no-no, especially when it's on base, because base is a whopping 22 plus like 4, which is very, very solid. I'm not gonna even like argue because it's great. So that would be a whopping like 8, 9, 8, 8 probably. And usefulness of this E.G.O. It's very, well, as I said before, it buffs allies and itself, so it's very useful. It inflicts rupture, which is nice, having infliction, and it also inflicts paralysis, which is probably the best thing an E.G.O. can inflict. Because we don't have paralysis IDs, well we do, but they're just not, they're not that up to crack yet. So, I'm going to put that at a whopping 8 as well. 8, I suppose. Yeah, 8's pretty solid because no. I think 9. I think 9's actually gonna be there because you give charge to your allies. You give your allies more envy resonance damage, and it's just a good unit. So, or E.G.O. I keep saying unit. So, I'll put that as a whopping 9. Very, very, very good E.G.O. Both of them are. I would recommend using them, definitely. So, yeah, have a good one.